Big news today. Zhipu AI has just released their biggest update yet, GLM-4.6. And trust me, this update is a game changer. So in this video, I will break it all down for you. Stick around till the end because this update is pushing Zhipu AI closer to competing with giants like OpenAI and Anthropic, and you will want to see what it's capable of. Alright, before we dive into the update, let's take a quick step back and understand who is behind this. Zhipu AI is one of the leading AI companies from China, and they are the team that created the GLM series of models. Think of GLM as their answer to models like GPT from OpenAI and Claude from Anthropic. Now, in the previous version, GLM 4.5, the model was already pretty impressive. It was great at reasoning, it could handle long conversations, and it came with a big context window of 128,000 tokens. That's already huge compared to what most people use day to day, but still it had its limits. When you try to push it with even bigger projects like an entire book or very large code base, it started running out of space. And that's exactly why this new release GLM 4.6 is such a big deal. Zhipu AI isn't just updating their model, they're showing the world that they can compete with giants like OpenAI, Anthropic, and DeepSeek. With the new improvements, they are not just catching up, they are trying to push ahead in areas like coding, agents, and long context reasoning. Okay, so now let's get into the exciting part. What's actually new in GLM 4.6? And trust me, there are some really big upgrades here. First, the 200,000 token context window. This is the headline feature. The previous version, GLM 4.5, already had a big 128,000 window, but now they have stretched it all the way up to 200,000 tokens. Next, agent and tool use improvements. Zhipu has made GLM 4.6 a lot smarter when it comes to being used inside an agent system. So if you are building an AI assistant that needs to search the web, call APIs, or perform multi-step workflows, this model is now better optimized for that. Think of it as a personal research assistant that doesn't just answer your questions but can also fetch information, process it, and then connect the dots for you. For developers, this could mean having a coding copilot that can look across multiple files, understand dependencies, and suggest real fixes instead of random guesses. Third, coding enhancements. This is another big one. GLM 4.6 is way stronger in coding compared to 4.5. It's not just about solving small code snippets, it's actually better at handling real-world tasks like refactoring big projects, working with multi-file systems, or even generating front-end pages. On some coding benchmarks, it's getting really close to models like Claude or GPT, which is impressive for an open competitor. Fourth, reasoning and writing upgrades. It's not just about raw power, the writing style has also improved. The model now sounds more natural, more human-like. It's better at role-play, storytelling, and producing text that people actually enjoy reading. And finally, token efficiency. One underrated improvement, GLM 4.6 can now complete tasks using around 15% fewer tokens compared to GLM 4.5. What does that mean? Basically, it needs fewer words to get to the point, which makes it faster and also cheaper if you're using it through an API. More value, less cost. So yeah, when you add it all up, bigger context, smarter agents, better coding, more natural writing, and token efficiency, GLM 4.6 is not just an upgrade, it's a serious step forward. Alright, now let's talk numbers, the benchmarks. Because updates sounds cool, but how do we actually know if GLM 4.6 is really better? So Zhipu tested this model on something called CC Bench. Think of CC Bench as a real-world exam for AI. It's not just multiple choice questions or textbook problems. It's full projects where the AI has to go step by step, debug code, and solve tasks inside a real environment. And in those tests, GLM 4.6 clearly outperforms GLM 4.5. It's more reliable, faster, and uses fewer tokens to get the job done. Now let's talk about how does it stack up against the competition. Compared to DeepSeek V3.2 XP or Claude Sonnet 4.5, GLM 4.6 is competitive. In some areas like multi-turn reasoning and handling longer workflows, it actually holds its own pretty well. In fact, when it comes to real-world coding tasks, GLM 4.6 gets very close to the top closed source models, and that's a big deal for an open competitor. But here is the thing, it's not always number one. On certain academic coding benchmarks, models like Claude Sonnet 4.5 still have the edge. So if you are looking purely at benchmark scores, GLM 4.6 doesn't beat everyone everywhere. But here's what matters. When you actually use it for practical coding, multi-turn reasoning, and agent workflows, it feels a lot more powerful than the scores alone suggest. And that's why people are excited, because in the real world, performance isn't just about test scores, it's about how well the AI actually works in day-to-day tasks, right? Okay, so the big question, how can you actually try out GLM 4.6? The easiest way is through the official API from Zhipu AI, which you can find on their platform called J.ai or Open.big model. That's the official endpoint where developers and businesses usually plug the model directly into their apps. If you don't want to go through the official route, you can also use it on third-party platforms like OpenRouter, or even download quantized versions from Hugging Face. Quantized versions basically mean lighter, more efficient copies of the model that you can run locally if you don't have super powerful hardware. Now, before we get too excited, let's also talk about the limitations, because no AI model is perfect. First, even though GLM 4.6 is really strong in coding and reasoning, it's not the absolute best in every coding benchmark. For example, in some tests, Claude Sonnet 4.5 actually performs a little better. So, depending on your use case, it might not always be the top choice. Second, this model is huge. We're talking about 355 billion parameter mixture of experts model. That means if you try to run it locally on your own computer, it's extremely resource heavy. Most people will need cloud access because regular PCs just can't handle it smoothly. And third, right now there isn't an official ER lightweight version of GLM 4.6, which many people were hoping for. That means if you want something lighter, more efficient, or easier to run locally, you will probably have to wait for future updates. But here's the big question. Do you think GLM 4.6 can actually compete with giants like OpenAI and Anthropic? Or is it still a step behind? I would love to hear your thoughts. So drop your opinion in the comments. And if you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I will also leave all the useful links right below the description, so definitely check those out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.